Greetings, fellow Planeswalkers.
I'm James.
And I'm Paul.
And you're listening to the newest episode of the Commander at Arms podcast. This week on the podcast, we're going to be talking about common play patterns and behaviors. But before we get into that, we have our upkeep trigger to do. Paul, this thing is getting monstrously big very quickly.
Yeah, what can we say? We live busy lives, I guess.
We do. we very much do. I want to thank all of our patrons. I want to shout out our brand new patron. Paul, do you want to do the honors?
Yes, actually, our newest patron is my cousin, and honestly, one of my closest relatives. I've looked up him for a long time. His name is Lewis. Lewis, thank you for supporting us. Lewis actually joined at our $10 patron tier, our first ever. So thank you so much, Lewis. Really means a lot to me. And I've been calling him Lewis because that's his actual name. I always have called him Louis, and it feels weird to keep calling him Lewis. So I'm just going to call him Louis. Thank you, Louis. It means a lot to us. I look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in the near future, now that we're all vaccinated and such.
Yeah, I want to meet this dude and just hang out, chill, and play some Commander. I think he also bought a t-shirt off us as well, which is really cool because I love those shirts, man.
Yes, those shirts are very comfortable. If you are out there and do not have a Commander at Arms t-shirt, what are you doing?
I actually agree. What are you doing? Like, these shirts are super comf. They're Bella Canvas, man. I wear nothing but like Bella Canvas, and all of my other printed tees are on Bella Canvas. So when we came around to like making the shirt, my biggest priority was making sure it was on Bella Canvas, and I love those shirts. They're super comfy. They wash great. They don't shrink in the dryer if you have to dry them in the dryer. And yeah, man, like go and pick one up. Like the link will be in the show notes below, where it always is. Go and pick one up. If you're a fan of the YouTube channel as well, I wear it on there as well. I wear it while I'm recording, so you can go and peep it out real quick. Check out the YouTube channel, subscribe, check out the videos there, and look at the shirt, and then maybe go pick one up. The show notes are in the video descriptions as well.
They are extremely comfortable. It is one of, if not the most comfortable shirt I own. And I live in Florida. It's a black shirt, and I wear it all the time in Florida.
Well, it's a heather gray, Paul. It's not exactly black.
It is a dark color. It absorbs sunlight.
It is. It is a dark color, and especially being in Florida, I don't sweat in these shirts.
I don't either.
So they're great, and they're, you can rep the Commander at Arms logo across your chest while you're playing Magic with your friends, or anyone else you meet at your LGS. Tell them about us. Spread the word. Spread the Commander at Arms love around with everybody.
And if you do get a shirt, new thing that I just came up with, post it on Instagram or Twitter and use the hashtag Commander at Arms. Maybe we can get that going.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna try and do something similar to it, but you kind of beat me to the punch there, Paul, and I love it. I love it. So yeah, use that hashtag Commander at Arms with your shirt, and we'll see if we can get some fan pics around, and I'll even make a collage up and put it on the Twitter. It'd be great. It'd be awesome. Paul and I will start it off. We'll get a picture of ourselves up there with the Commander at Arms t-shirt.
Yeah, James and I have actually seen each other twice since we've all been vaccinated, and still have yet to take a picture together. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. It feels weird. I'm not really like a, hey, let's just go and take a picture. Like, I'm not really like a, hey, let's go take a selfie kind of guy.
I'm not either.
I think for this purpose, Paul, we've got to become selfie people.
I don't know if that'll ever happen. I've never been a picture person.
I mean, that's fair. I haven't either. I'm still trying to lose some of my quarantine weight.
Just bring
that's a whole different.
I'm sure she'll remind us to take a picture.
She's always taking pictures, so yeah, I will. Yeah, we kind of skipped a little bit into this into this upkeep trigger. The next one is we're going to talk about some mail day and interesting finds. Paul, have you had anything interesting come in the mail lately?
No, although your boy may or may not have pre-ordered a MH2 Modern Horizons 2 boosty box.
Ooh.
Set booster box.
Oh, so maybe that's a bit of a stepping stone to maybe peep that one might be coming out on YouTube if you want to record that one, Paul. And
that's a great idea.
We can get that up on the YouTube channels, and people can watch you open some interesting finds.
And for anybody that's curious how I pre-ordered it, I went to tcgplayer.com using our affiliate link that you can find in the show notes below. Ooh. And I used that link and I pre-ordered a booster box.
Yeah, tcgplayer.com/Commander at Arms. Go and check out that affiliate link if you need any Modern Horizons 2 sealed or singles. That's going to help your local card shops as well as us, while still being able to buy online and getting shipped directly to your door. So I haven't got anything in the mail lately. I think I have talked about all of my mail day stuff the last couple of episodes. I think the newest thing that came in was my metal worker that I got while I was on holiday. Or I guess it's a vacation here in America, but I'm still going to call it a holiday. And picked up a really nice metal worker, which came in the mail while I was away. And then I was cracking packs, just randomly cracking some Strixhaven, and I pulled a Mystical Archives Demonic Tutor, and I didn't even know I'd pulled it until I looked down, and because I was just going through, I'm like, yeah, common, uncommon, rare was bad, and then I went, oh, the last card, I was like, oh. And I pulled that if anyone's seen Parks and Recreation, the Chris Pratt meme where his face is like the big jaw drop, that was my face.
I actually know exactly what you're talking about, despite never seen Parks and Rec.
I think that gif has gone around the internet enough that everyone's seen it but don't even know where it's from, and that's fine. But that was my face. It was the big old jaw drop and the, oh my god, did I just pull a demonic tutor. I also did get a Modern Horizons 2 pre-release kit. I'm not going to tell you what I got, but I'm going to tell you to check that one out on the YouTube channel. So I did upload the video there. It's been out for a couple days. So go check that one out. Like it, subscribe, put a comment on it, do everything that you can for the algorithm over there. We're really trying to make this YouTube channel big. Like, we're trying to like push everybody over from here to the YouTube channel, because it's been up for a week or so. I'm loving making video content, and as much as I love making the audio content, I love making video content. And if you are watching this on YouTube, or you're listening to this on YouTube as well, please don't forget to like the video and chuck a comment below and subscribe. Do everything that you're supposed to do on YouTube to help us with the algorithm over there. And like I said, just help us spread the Commander-at-Arms love.
Yeah, and there may or may not be a decently large announcement coming up soon regarding something to do with video content. Still working on details with that, and I know that we've been very vague before with video content, but like this is genuinely something that is still in the pipeline, so can't really say much about it.
Yeah, that's about all we're really going to say, but we are going to leave some breadcrumbs there. We did say we were going to get video content, and we did it, guys. Like, we did it. We got to 100 followers on Twitter, and I dropped our very first video, which was a Croxer Titan of Death's Hunger deck tech. So go and check that one out. Tell me what you think. I think the Tulane episode has just dropped as well, as time of this recording. Go and check that one out, because I love that deck as well. And then I guess the next thing we have to talk about here, Paul, is the giveaway that we ran over the last 2 weeks. It's finally over. Submissions ended on Tuesday, which is the day of recording of this episode. So we have our winner of that deck. It was the Shadow Gang Brothers Jund deck. And we are going to announce the winner at the end of this episode. And then we're going to put it up on Twitter and Instagram so everybody can know who won. And we'll get the details about all that from the winner at the end. So the last thing we have to talk about in our upkeep trigger before we move on to our main phase one here is play of the week. Paul, I know you've probably taken a little bit of a sabbatical away from Magic for the last maybe a week or so. I don't think you have any plays, but did you maybe have a play?
Yeah, like James said, I've actually I've been on a bit of a hiatus from Magic, just for personal reasons. It's not like I just didn't like the game anymore or whatever. I needed some time to myself to kind of, work on various things. So I don't actually have a play of the week, although I think perhaps maybe this weekend I may have some magicking going on, and it may involve a certain Australian. Unconfirmed, but...
Wait, you cheating on me with someone else? You have another Australian in your life that isn't me?
All the Australians that I know.
I mean, there's Sam and Shesh from the Commander Crunch podcast. You know those guys.
Yeah, but I'm not in the business of taking a flight over to Australia anytime soon.
I mean, that's fair. I understand that. So I guess my play of the week was I got to jam some more games with Corey from the Commander crew and the rest of them, Eddie and Chris. Got to jump in one of their streams again and got to hang out with them. They had some really cool dudes, man. I love playing Magic with those guys. We have a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. I guess my play of the week really isn't much said as a play, as just the whole experience with them. I won't give much away to that stream because I know one of those 3 games that we played is going up on their YouTube channel, I believe. And I think it was the first game where we played tribal decks. And that's all I'm going to say. So again, as we usually do when we are a guest on someone else's content, is we will shout it out now. And then we'll go back and we will put the links in the show notes below. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and tell you to go and check out the Commander Crews YouTube channel. I think they're like either at 1,000 or very close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you like what they do, go and subscribe to them as well, because they're awesome dudes. And we're over there all the time playing Magic and talking on Discord and hanging out in their server as much as we are on our server. And that's it, Paul. I think we're going to start talking about some Magic stuff here. People are going to get a little bit mad that we just we do a lot of businessy stuff at the start. So we're going to pass through our upkeep. We're finally going to draw our card, and we're going to move to our main phase 1 where we can start slinging some spells.
All right.
So
James, what are we talking about today?
Paul brought it to my attention a couple days ago about an article that Sheldon Menery did and his views on wheels in Commander, especially with there's 2 cards predominantly in Modern Horizons 2 that really, I guess, for him, sour the taste of wheels in Commander, and he was thinking about wanting to ban the whole archetype as a whole. So every card that says wheel on, oh, not wheel on it, but like any card that basically makes you discard your hand and draw another 7 or draw up to 7 or draw cards was, I guess, like under the fire line of this view from Sheldon. Not saying that it's a bad thing or anything, but it's the first time we've really seen, I guess, the creator of our format attack a full archetype of cards and not just one card specifically.
Right. And just to clarify, obviously this is a topic that was discussed a lot when this article first came out, which I think was like a couple weeks ago. So we're not planning on beating a dead horse here, so to speak. More so that upon further inflection into this topic, I realized that this could actually be expanded upon into other categories of cards, so to speak. And I won't spoil what those are now, but we're not going to be just repeating the same thing over and over. We're going to be discussing our thoughts on wheels, and now that all the hot air has died over that topic, maybe now we can take some time to really think about it, and maybe Sheldon had a point, or maybe not. I'm not spoiling what we're going to be saying yet, but I just wanted to clarify that we're not going to be just rehashing the same thing for the next 20-30 minutes or whatever. We're going to bring up some new stuff that you may not have heard before.
Yeah, it was very much a thought experiment on this one. Trying to think of what we were going to talk about for this one, because again, we don't want to be just keep like wheels are bad. I hate wheels. Personally, I just built a discard deck and I tried to add, I guess, wheels into the deck without adding wheels into the deck, if that makes sense. Like I don't have the money for Wheel of Fortune, and that's not what that's about. But I added, like, there's Wheel of Misfortune in there. There's also the dragon that you told me to add in, Paul, which was Rune Kite Tyrant, I believe it's called.
Runehorn Hellkite, I think.
Runehorn Hellkite. Yeah, it's a wheel from the graveyard for like 7 mana.
6 instant speed.
6 instant speed wheel. I mean, I don't hate wheels, but I also don't play and haven't played against anybody who has wheeled and then flashed out a Hull Breacher. So I can kind of see wheels being a bad taste in people's mouth if that's a heavy constant in your play group / meta / your experience with Commander. I don't see that, and I haven't experienced that yet, but I guess from an outsider's perspective on that, I can see why it'd be annoying, because you've just lost your entire hand, and now one person's way far ahead, and you're top decking for the rest of the game until you find an answer for the Hull Breacher after they've already, done the damage of wheeling.
And, Hull Breacher is actually one of those cards that is brought up most often when it comes to wheels. You also have, like, Narset.
Yeah.
You now have Dauthi Voidwalker. And that was actually one of the points that Sheldon made in his article, was that Dauthi Voidwalker kind of brings to light even further why wheels are such an unhealthy thing to have in the format. And we're basically just gonna talk about why that may or may not be the case.
I mean, we have a Grixis wheel commander, which is Nekuzar, And I mean, he plays every wheel possible, like I say Wheel of Fortune, like Windfall. I guess all of the red wheels.
Windfall,
I really am having
Wheel and Deal, Wheel of Fortune, Wheel of Misfortune, Time Twister. Theoretically, if somebody were to actually own a Time Twister.
I mean, time twister loops are really prevalent in like CEDH.
Yeah. So I personally can understand where Sheldon is coming from. I have played against, and I have played against a deck that I was narcited into a Windfall, and it did not feel good. I cannot lie. It really did not feel great. And the fact that combos, I suppose is what you would call that, exists in Commander that can do things like that is not really like an offense, but it's just kind of I don't know. It doesn't really feel like it's progressing the game at all. It just kind of feels like you do it, and then everybody just sits there and looks at you hatefully. Well, not hatefully, but like they just like you're very clearly like the person that everybody does not like at the table. Maybe that is hatefully. I don't know.
As the person who's been looked that way at, it's definitely hate. There's definitely some salt levels that happen when stuff like that happens. I haven't done anything like that, but I will say the first time I ever saw Narset Parter of Veils was actually when we were playing at BAM, and I was told that they were like, here, have Narset or borrow my Narset for a while and then give it back to me, which I didn't give back. Sorry, Micah. It's now mine. But people were like, yeah, you have to play wheels with that. Like, that card gets exponentially better when you play wheels with that card. And I'm like, that's cool and all, but that really just puts us in a cookie cutter kind of situation where it's like cards are only good if you have another archetype with it, I guess. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I'm not sure how to really describe it, but I think my point's coming across.
So here's my thing with wheels. Wheels, honestly, without the aid of cards like Hull Breacher or Dothi Voidwalker or Nekusar, assuming those things are not involved at all, wheels honestly kind of just progress the game faster than it normally would have, right? Like Wheel of Fortune, everybody draws a fresh 7 cards. Windfall, on average, they're drawing a fresh 4 or 5 cards. And to me, that makes it pretty obvious that the wheel itself is not the unhealthy part, right? It seems more like what complements the wheels. Those Hull Breachers, those Dothi Voidwalkers, those Nekusars, anything that can get value off of other people discarding their hands, because it just kind of Turgid. There you go. That's another great example.
That's another one.
It just kind of breaks that symmetry, right? And now instead of everybody getting the same value off of that one card, now all of a sudden you just accrued 4 times the value, roughly speaking, on average, because 4 players, whatever. You get the point. The math checks out. On average, you're getting about 4 times the value, and everybody else gets nothing. And this is something in Magic that is of historical significance, right? This is something that people have tried to do forever with every card that's ever existed. Any card that's symmetrical, you want to try to break that symmetry. Stasis, people always try to cheat Stasis. Winter Orb, Hokori, Dust Drinker, Static Orb. These are cards that, while symmetrical in theory, are easy to break. Urza just has to tap Winter Orb, and then when the Urza player untaps, they get to untap everything. It's something that people do all the time. Does that mean that Winter Orb is an unhealthy card? Not necessarily. I mean, maybe it is. Depends on who you ask. But in that case, it's not Winter Orb that's the problem, because theoretically it is symmetrical. It's the things that the players are doing with that card that are perhaps unhealthy.
Yeah, and that really moves into our very first kind of topic that we were going to bring up with that is stacks pieces. Are we going to eventually have to ban all stacks pieces because, like Paul said, they're not symmetrical, because people are making them not symmetrical? You only really ever see Winter Orb in Urza because you can break that symmetry to kind of lock the board out of being able to do anything, and then you just explode and have these massive turns that then just excel you so far ahead that no one else can catch up. And then that's just mainly just a feels bad moment at that point, because you're like, well, I only get 1 land per turn and my deck runs predominantly 5, 6, 7 drops because I'm playing casual commander, and here this is person playing stacks pieces. I mean, there's no other feeling besides just feeling bad. I guess Jorm. It'd probably end up getting played maybe in Jorm because you can untap your lands when you attack with Jorm and all of your other snow permanents. And I mean, like when I built Tergrid, I resolved a smokestack and the table groaned because they were like, we're never going to be able to keep a permanent on our board whatsoever. And I just went, no. Like smokestacks in here, it's one card. Like I'm never going to put more than one, one counter. I can't remember. I think it's a soot counter on smokestack. Yeah. I said, I'm never going to put that. Like I'm never going to put more than one on here because I think that's a little,
how you going, as you would say.
Yeah, I guess it's to use Australian slang, it's a little how you going, you know. It's that feels bad moment that kind of I lost that game that I played actually, but my pod was like, well, technically you actually won, you just didn't use smokestack the correct way or the way that it should have been used for you to win the game. And I said that's because I didn't want to. As a personal preference to myself, I looked at smokestack and said, this card says at the beginning of your upkeep, you sacrifice one permanent. And that was kind of how I leveled and kind of, I guess, not really laser focused, but like really just looked at it as its floor, you know? So I didn't look at the ceiling of the card. I just looked at the floor of the card and went, okay, that's what it says to me because that's what I would be comfortable playing against with.
Right. And it's important to note that stacks is one of those things in Magic that people hear the term and they automatically associate it with not being able to play Magic. And I'm just going to put it out there that that's not what stacks has to be about. That's if that's what you associate stacks with, then the person you were playing their win condition was literally not letting you play. And honestly, I'm just going to go out and on a limb and say this, that if that's your win condition, that's not a very fun game of Magic. If you're playing in a pod where people understand that that's what you're doing and they're okay with it, fine, whatever. But if you show up to a random pod and you bust out your stacks deck and your goal is to make sure that people can't play lands or tap lands or keep their lands or that you're the only one that can do stuff, I think that's what's unhealthy. And I don't think it's the stacks pieces themselves that are unhealthy.
It's the mindset around the stacks.
Right.
That becomes the unhealthy part because I put in the script that I took out, but lockdown pieces, I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about this or not, but it's actually a good idea. Well, it was a good segue that you brought up about people stopping you people from playing Magic. And that's when people have like Vega I was versing a Vega the Watcher deck and Drannith Magistrate and Knowledge Pool came out and we all just went, yep, you win because we don't want to have to deal with that. And that's also why I was actually curating a mono blue Teferi deck, which was what is his name from? Mage of that. Thank you very much. That one. And the only groan I got when I showed people it was like, oh, it's just pool party Teferi and you're just gonna do the pool party thing and we're not going to play. And I'm like, no. Like, look at Knowledge Pool was the last card in my brain that actually came through. I was like, I'll add it if I have to, but it is a creature deck. You know, this creature has flash and gives flash. So why wouldn't I use that instead of just like, oh, you know, like, and they can only play things at sorcery speed. Okay, cool. I was more like, I get to flash out my creatures and you can't counter them. That's a plus. I wasn't like, I get to flash out my creatures and you don't get to play anything. That's awesome, because it's not. That's not what I was thinking with that deck. And yeah, because that's not what I wanted to do with my like, I guess a heavy lockdown deck, which I've seen it happen with Lavinia, Azorius Renegade as well. And those decks are just not fun to play against. You just end up scooping, walking away, taking a breather, coming back to a pod and playing a brand new game.
Right. It's the same principle as like if you cast an Armageddon and you don't have a way to win, like either in hand or on board. Like if you're a mono white deck and you're really far ahead on board and you Armageddon, fine. You got the win condition on board. You just attack. If you are in any deck and you have 0 board presence and you Armageddon just to set everybody back, I don't know. That doesn't seem worth it. Like, why not just go to a game 2 where you can maybe perform better and let everybody else play? I don't know. Like I said, it's more about unhealthy decisions than it is about unhealthy cards, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes back to with wheels. If you wheel and you want to be wheeling symmetrically, I don't have an issue with that. I don't think that that's a problem. It's when you try to break the symmetry with that and you Narset or you Hull Breacher or I don't even know what else really goes with wheels besides those two cards, honestly, off the top of my head.
Turgid, I mentioned before, is
Oh, I mean,
one of the
yeah,
more popular
Turgid
ones
works.
these days.
Turgid's pretty powerful. Dorothy, Voidwalker is another one, I guess. But if you have ways and you built your deck around, like, I'm only going to wheel when I have those cards in play because that's the way that I want the deck to run, and that's how I play Magic, and that's it. That's all these cards are in there for. Then I feel like that is the wrong decision to put wheels in your deck for. If you want to, like, if you're in colors that can't draw cards consistently, and you're versing a deck that draws cards consistently, like AC, God of Gaia Straits, any other Simic, basically any Simic commander. If you're in like a heavy Simic meta, and or even like Tulane, if you're in if you're in a pod, sorry. So let me just rephrase all this. If you're in a pod that plays heavy draw cards, then you want to use those wheels to kind of sit them back, and that's cool. You're getting 7 new cards, everyone else is getting 7 new cards. They also may have drawn like 32 cards. Now they're getting only 7 back. That's all right. That slows them down, but doesn't stop everyone else from playing Magic.
And again, that comes back to the whole idea of the decisions being made that are unhealthy as opposed to the cards themselves. And if you, like I said before, if you talk with your group and you establish, hey, this is what I'm doing, are you guys cool with that? Fine, whatever. Like, I'm not going to stop you from, or I'm not going to berate you or tell you that it's wrong to do that. If your group says, hey, that's fine, man, do whatever you want. But if you're playing with a bunch of random people that you've met for the first time, you don't tell them, hey, just so you know, the goal of this deck is I'm going to wheel and I'm going to flash out a Hull Breacher while that wheel's on the stack. If you don't say that and you do it to those people, then that's kind of on the toxic side of Magic the Gathering players. And honestly, I think that we should strive to be better than that.
Yeah, if you're sitting down to a pod at your local LGS, and you're just ready to, say your third week in, maybe you're a month in, you bought a couple precons, you watched a video on how to upgrade that precon, you listened to one of our episodes on how to upgrade that precon quite cheaply, you bought those cards using the TCG affiliate link, and then, you sat down at a table and you're ready to have some fun, play some Commander, hang out, play the casual format that we think Commander is. Well, that Commander is, not sorry. And then someone, turbo wheels you, and then keeps turbo wheeling you, and you can't get out of that loop of, them Hull Breachering into more wheels, to then maybe even just a time twister, and then all of a sudden, like, you're just not playing Magic for the night, and you walk away just feeling, is this game for you? You haven't invested that much money into the game yet, but you've invested enough that you'd want to try and keep coming back. But if that's one of the first experiences you have within the first month of playing, I don't think that's good for our community at all. I think that's a quick way to start losing new players that we're going to start getting with all these brand new products, all these brand new made for Commander products.
Absolutely. And honestly, about a month ago, I went to my LGS for the first time since this pandemic started. And I was playing in a pod, and this guy busted out his Memnarch deck. And for me personally, I'm conditioned that whenever I see Memnarch, I'm thinking, oh god, it's mono blue control. He's just going to turn everything into an artifact and steal it all. All right. But he clarified, he said, so this is my favorite deck. I just like it a lot. It really is pretty dirtly. And sure enough, that deck was super dirtly. It didn't really do anything too broken until the end game, of course. But, everybody does something broken in the end game at some point. And because he said that, I pulled out Geared, and I was like, hey guys, this deck has 0 combos at all. I just want to turn Rhino sideways and make him big, and that's it. That's my game plan. And it was a very enjoyable game of Magic. I had never been there before. Everybody I was playing with, I had never met before. Actually, one of the other people was also new to the shop, first time playing there. And he's been there, I'm pretty sure, every week since. So the decisions that you make have more of an impact than you think they do. The game has 4 players, not just you.
Yeah, no, that's actually very true. You want to make sure that everybody's walking away with at least a positive thing to say about that particular game of EDH. And I think with that, what we're going to do is we're going to move to our combat phase. And I'm going to let Paul swing out with all of those rhinos he would have made in that game with Gearhead. Do you remember how many rhinos it was?
I believe at max I had 5. And then I got always dusted.
All right. Dude, all of Dust is a fantastic card. Anyway, so let's go to the combat phase. Paul's going to swing out with 5 rhinos. And we're going to go hear a message from our sponsors right now. Welcome back from that ad break. We're going to pass through to our main phase 2 here, and we're going to continue the discussion of common play patterns and behaviors. Paul, what was our next archetype of cards that we were going to talk about?
This was actually the one that inspired me or inspired us to actually talk about this. Is that when I read those wheels, it made me remember that I actually had a conversation about tutors prior to that whole wheel discussion, and my view on tutors is basically, as we said in main phase 1, that it's not really the tutors that affect or that are unhealthy. It is the decisions that people make with them, the cards that they get. And it's been a point of pretty popular discourse, especially over the past year or so, that tutors are not, they're not mid cards. You can't play them in, underpowered decks. They are exclusively, high power to CDH. And while I understand that sentiment, that is mostly because at those power levels, people use them to get out, win conditions. They use them to get out things that give them infinite mana, things that can help them win the game, if not that turn, then at least in the near future. And I have seen people use tutors to get, genuinely fun cards. They use it to get, I don't know, Hive Mind, wink wink.
Hive Mind is not a fun card, Paul.
Hive Mind is fun.
Stop trying to push that on everybody. Hive Mind's not fun.
But my point is, they use it to get cards that actually, help everybody out. Sometimes they'll use it to get Tempt with Discovery. Sometimes they'll use it to get, I don't know, anything that doesn't win the next turn. Sometimes they'll use it to get lands. Sometimes they'll use it to get our ramp spell. Sometimes they'll use it to get something that just draws cards. Or, like Phyrexian Arena, or, just things that accrue value over time instead of instantly winning the game on the spot. And in those cases, I think tutors are just fine. People are just using them to help themselves out of a tight spot. But when people are using tutors exclusively just to fetch out things that either advance their own board state or regress everybody else's, then I think that's when you run into the unhealthy camp of tutors. When people, and I'm going to put James on the spot here, not because I'm still salty about this, but just because it's a great example of what I mean. If somebody's playing Turgid and they vamp tutor for Jewel Lotus on turn 1, and they get Turgid out on turn 2, and then Pox on turn 3, or turn 2, whatever it was.
It was turn 3.
Turn 3. That is an example of something that might be considered, oppressive, because... Well, mainly due to the fact that it's oppressive, because now James has this huge board state and nobody else can really do anything because they've been denied all their resources. And
yeah, and I'm not going to defend what I did either, because I think what I did was pretty bad. But in my defense, as I just said, I'm not going to defend myself, but in my defense, it was the third time playing the deck. I never got to do that interaction before. We were playing all friends. It was a 5-player pod of all friends. There was no randoms in it or anything. Otherwise, it would have been a whole different thing. And it was just I have this in my hand. I should just go for it. So I did, and I instantly put the deck away and said it's not coming out of my bag. And for me to have a deck like that made me feel like why should I have the deck anyway? So since all that, Paul, right, I have pulled Turgid apart. Turgid is no longer a deck that I have. I have Kroxa instead, but Turgid is still in the deck. She's in the 99, and I don't tutor for her ever. If she comes along, she comes along. If she doesn't come along, then that's fine.
But my point in saying that was again not to roast you, as the kids say these days. It was just because it was the best example I could think of what I would consider an unhealthy decision.
Yeah,
there were a multitude.
It definitely
of cards.
Was. But see, I saw in that hand. I saw Vampiric Tutor, and I went instantly to that's a Jewel Lotus because I have 3 cards in hand. I have 3 lands in hand. That's a turn 2 Turgid, and then I drew I drew Pox, and I was like, I have to, right? I can't not do this right now with this board state.
But the thing is, there were 90 something other cards in that deck that could have gotten with that tutor, and
yeah, any
one of them probably would have made that a very different game. And whether or not it would have been a healthier game is undecided, mainly because Turgid is well, you've all heard me spiel about Turgid before, but that was just a really good example of what I would consider to be something that you may not want to consider, like not doing. Maybe get a different card. Maybe get like a Cabin of Souls or, something like that. Just something that kind of helps you out a little bit over time, gets you a little bit of value.
I will say, Paul, I have also, as much as I've done degenerate tutor stuff, I have also used tutors to go and get like utility creatures to help my board out as well as helping other people's boards out. Recently I've just been using them to get removal pieces to make sure that I can remove problematic permanents on the board. And I've been using them more as, I guess, the way we intended them to be used in Commander, and not just to go and tutor for your most powerful piece in your deck. And just go and get what you need at the time to kind of help everybody.
Right, but that is an example of a healthy decision, right? You're using it as in a responsive way. There we go. That's the term I was looking for. You're using it to get removal for a problematic thing on the board. Let's say somebody else has a trigger, or somebody has Smothering Tide, something like that. You're using your tutor to not advance anything, really. You're just trying to bring somebody down to everybody else's level.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying that's the only way to use a tutor, but in my opinion, that is one of the best ways to use it, is that instead of using it as a win condition, you're using it as a second copy, so to speak, of one of your removal pieces, your D-Spark or whatever.
Yeah, that's probably how I should be looking at tutors as well. But I guess me being me and wanting to see all these fun, powerful interactions play out in a game is why I was going for that stuff, but also then just not really thinking about how this affects the other players, because, I mean, I did our friend bad last night. And I say it's our friend because it's Ross. I think all the viewers currently maybe know Ross, not personally, but we know him personally. He's a great guy. He just finished building an Atrata deck, and he was so excited to show it off and play. And we're going to a 3-pod game of Commander because that's all we could find at the time. And I turned 6 to the table, and I was like, oh no. I did it again. I did it again, but I didn't. That's the thing, is I didn't tutor for those. It just can't. Oh no, sorry, that's a lie. I did tutor. I tutored for the Wall Gorger Dragon. So that's me. Yeah, that was me making an unhealthy decision in that game. I can totally see that now, and I want to take this time to personally apologize to Ross and Laggy, CJ. I'm sorry. I didn't want it to happen, but it happened, and I feel really bad about it. And I had to get up from the computer to walk away and do something else in the kitchen, and I came back and Ross was gone, because Ross was like, you gave us 5 turns. I was allowed to play 6 turns of Magic, and then you won. And I was like, I have to call him. I have to make sure he's okay. And I felt really bad. And we were on the phone for about an hour after the game, just talking and hanging out, because it's been a while since I've spoken to Ross. And I settled everything down, and the first thing I said was, I am so sorry. That's not what I wanted to happen, but I tutored for the World Gorger Dragon. My bad. And that's now kind of why I want to just build a casual, fun Gearred deck, because I love Gearred. And as I was talking to Paul in the little ad break we had, I'm gonna put together my Gearred list and take out the 2 combos in there and just have it as a sweet little, I want to smack you in the face with rhinos with love.
With love.
With love. I've always with love. They're just 4/4s that may become 5/5s that want to just trample in and, dome you in the face. That's cool, isn't it?
I mean, I personally think so.
So, yeah. Tutors are a double-edged sword for me, because I've been on, there was post-tutors. Sorry, there's been pre-tutors and post-tutors of me playing Magic. When I started, I had access to no tutors, so I wasn't able to play any tutors. Since then, I have acquired / opened tutors. So I have, all 5 of the monocolored tutors. I also have Demonic Tutor. And I have Entomb, which is, I guess, another monocolored one. But I have a lot of tutors, and I think it's now just up to me as a player to use them responsibly and not just use them as a secondary win condition card in my deck.
Good old James.
Yep. And I guess that we can easily segue into the next archetype of cards, is if you go and tutor for a specific card, with a little keyword on it. I think you may have heard about it. You might have died to it a lot, and that's infect. I know I personally see Atraxa as an infect-only commander, and anybody who tells me otherwise is usually wrong, because infect is just the best archetype for Atraxa, besides maybe Super Friends. Super Friends is getting a lot of support lately, but usually it's infect, Super Friends, or +1/+1 counters, or +1/+1 counters and infect kind of go hand in hand, because you want to make the creatures massive so you can swing in for the damage, as well as being able to proliferate them with Atraxa. So it's kind of hard to really think of an Atraxa deck that isn't one of those three, or maybe just like one of those two.
Now, I think saying that infect is the best archetype for Atraxa, it's a strong statement. It's a good one, but I don't know if there is a best archetype, so to speak. Here's my thing about Infect. Infect, giving players a life total of 10 in a 40 life format, completely disregarding all other notions of, like life gain or, anything like that, I think is what makes it a not very fun mechanic to play against, and in my opinion, play with. I think if Infect were increased to like 15 or even 20, I think it would be much better, personally speaking. I know that increasing it by 5 or 10 doesn't seem like a lot, but I have died to Infect before, and if I had just one more turn in those games that I lost to Infect, I actually might have been able to stabilize. But, when people start swinging at you with Infect turn 2 or 3, there's not much you can do about that. And the problem with increasing it to 20 is it basically means that commanders like Skithrix don't really actually do anything different. It's basically just regular commander damage. But like creatures that do have Infect are better than commanders. They have to do less than half the damage that a commander does to kill somebody. And you can have more than one Infect creature. You can only have one commander. I don't know. Infect feels like one of those things that is genuinely unhealthy in its current state for the format, unless it's rule 0 the way I just described.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of these issues come up inside rule 0, because you should be accurately depicting what your deck does, and well, not really why. You don't really have to explain why your deck does it, but as long as you're explaining accurately what your deck is intending to do, I think all of this is going to be okay. It's when people sit down and go, oh, I'm just playing a Dirtle deck, but here's my turn 6 win. And you're like, hold on a second. This is not what you described it as. That's not what your intention was, apparently. Your intention was to come here, lie about your deck, and then pub stomp us. And that's I think, is the most unhealthy part of, like, all of this, is just that rule 0 interaction is just being faithful about what your deck intends to do. You'll have the times to be able to play those pub stomp decks, and you'll have times that you'll have to play, mid-range casual dirtly decks that do almost nothing besides resolving creatures and swinging at the face. I know that, not personally, but I was around when it happened at an LGS. There was a pod playing, and they were going back and forth, and I was in my game, and I heard, just because people are loud at LGSs, and I understand that, and we talked about this on our etiquette episode about just like not being so loud at LGSs, because there's a lot of people in those places and they can get quite loud. So I was listening to their game as well as mine in the down times that I wasn't actively currently playing, but still keeping my attention was still on my game, but half on their game as well. And they were talking about how something happened and that guy lost and he was mad about it, or he was upset about it. So he shuffled up and they all switched decks, and he shuffled up and played, and I think he killed the board with Infect within like 5, maybe 4 turns. And he was like, yeah, I win. And then they were like, well, because you used Infect. He's like, yeah, well, you guys all killed me last game. And I'm like, that to me just felt like it was a spite play. He brought out his Infect deck because he knew that he only had to get 10 points of damage before killing a player, and in some decks that's easier than others, especially in Atraxa's case, because you only need 1 Infect counter on someone before you can just proliferate the hell out of it, and all of a sudden they're dead because you've been able to proliferate, a bunch of times and put those counters on them, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's no interaction besides, getting the spell that's going to proliferate countered or removed off the board, or in Atraxa's case, at the end step of her turn, she gets to proliferate everything. And I went, damn, that's just not that. Well, that wouldn't have been a fun game to be in as I was continuing to do my stuff in my game.
That's that's a pretty good example of why infect is one of those things that I don't know. It feels like unless it's balanced within house rules, it just kind of I don't know. The games that it's in are not very interactive. Typically speaking, they tend to result in the infect player winning because nobody else really has time to react to anything. Save for some very rare scenarios. But speaking of interactive, this is actually a decent segue into what I think is the last thing that we wanted to talk about, which is free interaction. And free interaction is something that has been part of Magic's history since, I don't know, when did Force of Will come out? Like Alliances? I don't think there were any free spells before that.
I think Force of Will in Alliances was very close to one of the very first free interaction spells we got.
Yeah, there might have been something before that, but I don't think so. But with very few exceptions, and those exceptions are cards that are free that are just so bad that you don't really play them. I think that free interaction in Magic is not healthy, and I don't think there is a way to make it healthy, personally speaking. I'm open to opposing opinions about this, but honestly speaking, I don't think there is a way you can balance a card like Force of Will or Force of Negation or Fierce Guardianship to make them into a, quote, fair, end quote, card. I guess foil would probably be one of the closest ways because you just have to go down so many resources. But even that, I would say, is like, I don't know, it's kind of pushing it.
Yeah, and I mean, we're getting more and more free interaction as sets get more powerful and more powerful. I mean, we literally just got a whole brand new, I mean, I guess they're not really interaction, but we're getting those new, the new cycle of evoke creatures from Modern Horizons 2. I mean, I should say we have them because Modern Horizons 2 is released, hopefully by the time this episode goes live. And I mean, we just got Pact of Negation got a reprint in Time Spiral Remastered. Force of Negation was in Modern Horizons 1, which I think has now been reprinted in Modern Horizons 2 as a retro frame. Double Masters had Force of Will. I was about to say we haven't seen a Force of Will reprint for a while, but we just got it in Double Masters. These are all like recent sets, so people could have access to a lot of these cards. And I think having things to do while you are tapped out is very powerful. And there's no way around that. So it's that false sense of security that you see a blue player tapped out and you're like, yes, I can go for my win or I can do something big. And they go, oh, no, you can't Force of Will. And you're like, oh, okay. Like, that's cool. Like my spot, like you're all tapped out. My spell resolves, right? And you're like, nah. Classic blue player, but being a classic blue player.
Yeah, free interaction is basically just Magic's way of saying I can have my cake and eat it too. But it goes even beyond blue spells, like they printed Force of Vigor, which destroys 2 artifacts or enchantments for free, essentially. And that's a green card, and that's pretty good, right? That card even sees like legacy play. Like that's how good that card is.
It definitely sees commander play. I don't use it because I don't have a copy of it, but I mean, I'd be starting to use it if I could. So I just feel like with WotC making cards like cost less to cast, and then to the point where they make them free by discarding cards, kind of just ups the power level of every single thing in your deck, their deck, and everyone else's deck. And I still heavily believe that free interactive cards should be left at the casually competitive tables, the CDH tables, and shouldn't be in mid. Like, you should have to pay for all of your spells in mid, even if it's one of the Ikoria commander cycle cards, where it's like if you have your commander on the field, you get to play it for free. Like Fierce Guardianship. What was the white one? Deflecting Swat, Deadly Rollick, Fierce Guardianship, Flawless Maneuver, and the green one that no one can remember its name. I think even those have their place at the casually competitive tables and staying out of mid. Because that's kind of how you really just power down. No, not even power down, but that's kind of just how you like keep everything even Stevens across the board with the rest of the players.
Right, and honestly, I'm one of those players that I still consider like Stubborn Denial and Dispel like really good cards. And I just kind of wish we'd get back to that point, right? Where like a 1-mana counterspell is considered powerful, because it is. That is a powerful card. But like being free is even better. And we have like an overabundance of free things now. You could almost make a free spell tribal deck, to be honest.
Yeah, let's not even get into what a debacle Phyrexian Mana is. Let's just leave that one alone for now. But Phyrexian Mana is one of those honorable highlights or honorable mentions on this like list, I guess, list of lists of archetypes that we, if they look at wheels the way they are, then why not look at these archetypes as well? And I think Phyrexian Mana is one of them. Like I think it was like one of the biggest mistakes in card design that they've done in maybe the history of Magic.
Even Phyrexian Mana, like that basically falls in line with the whole free spell thing. You're cheating basically, but within the confines of the game.
Yeah, definitely. Like mental misstep is 2 life, and you get to counter target spell with 1 CMC.
Mm-hmm. Or mana value for the kids out there these days.
Sorry, yeah. So mana value 1. So before, like that's the thing is like turn 1 Sol Ring is one of the best plays in casual Magic. And here all of a sudden you're able to say, without even playing a land or even taking your first turn, mental misstep your Sol Ring.
Yeah, same thing with
Force of Will.
Gitaxian Probe.
Yeah, you can do it. Yeah.
It's basically like playing 98 cards in your deck.
Yeah, essentially. Git Probe is sorcery, is it not?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you can't really, like, before you even play a land, Git Probe someone, but you can counter them. I mean, you can do it with Force of Will as well, or you can do it with, like, one of the I guess you can do it with Force of Negation as well, but I wouldn't do it with Pact. Never use Pact turn 1. That's bad. Well, not turn 0, sorry. And I think with the way that Magic's going and the way the Commander is going in the last 18 months, where it's just getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, it's kind of, like you said, it's kind of hard to go back to those days where Doomblade was premier removal. Hero's Downfall was like top of the top of removal spells. I just don't think we're ever going to get back to those days, unfortunately. So I guess with all that said, we're not going to continue to beat a dead horse here. So we'll move on to our end step. I think if we've talked about everything we wanted to, Paul.
Yeah, I believe that was everything.
Cool. So we are going to move to our end step. We're going to finally end our turn. We've had probably one of the longest solitaire turns in Magic's history. And we're going to announce the winner of our Jund Shattergang Brothers Aristocrats deck. And drum roll, please, Paul. I'll insert drum roll here. I'm probably going to butcher this name, but Alan Cleric, or also known as Silver Crusader on Instagram, is the winner of our giveaway, our very first giveaway. So, Alan, can you please send us an email with all your information, your shipping address, and everything else, and we will get that sent out to you ASAP. After we have acquired all the cards, we will get them shipped out to you. If you wanted to ever be a part of one of our giveaways, you can do so by starting off going and following us on Twitter or Instagram. You can do that at CMDR@arms. I want to thank everybody who entered this giveaway, everybody who followed us out of the whim. When I was sitting here with Paul going, we're at what were we at, like 93 followers, and I went, let's try and get to 100. And you guys exploded us. It was amazing. Exploded us all out to like 120 followers in maybe a matter of an hour or so. People were like,
yeah. By the end of the episode.
Yeah, but like I tweeted that out by like before we started recording, and I was like, oh man, my phone's blowing up. And I think by the end of recording, Paul, you had like 20 something notifications from Twitter.
Yeah, it was a lot more than I expected. I even put up.
It was a lot more than I was expecting. I knew that. Everyone else was pushing us to get to 200. So I mean, I'm not gonna be like, let's just get us 200 because we want to get to 200. I wanted to actually build a full-on community with everybody. But I want to thank everybody who followed us. And if you haven't followed us already, please go and follow us. We do put out some pretty funny tweets every once in a while. I do post a couple memes. I don't want to be known as the meme channel, but I'll post a couple of funny memes if I've seen them.
I am not on there as much, ironically. What's funny is that I used to be the Twitter guy, And James is like, yeah, I don't know how to do that. I don't really go on there. And now James is on there probably more than me at this point.
I learnt the ways of Twitter. And I also have a lot of time on my hands. So, and I ingest a lot of like Commander content, Magic content, and if I think it's deemed worthy enough to be, I'm not even worthy, but if I deem it good enough to put it on the Twitter, I'll throw it on Twitter. Why not? And I always retweet things that I see that are funny, or if not, like the community needs. And we're just going to continue our end step here. I'm going to talk about our TCG player affiliate link one more time. If you need singles, sealed products, and want to support your local LGS while still buying cards online and giving us a small little kickback, you can do that on tcgplayer/commanderatarms. It really helps us to show support for the show. The shirt, again, we have probably plugged the shirt a couple times this episode as well, but they're on super comfy Bella canvas, heather gray, big old Commander at Arms logo across the chest. You can get that from the link in the show notes below. That will take you directly to our Etsy page. And then the last way you can show support directly is through patreon.com/commanderatarms. We have 3 tiers on there. Go and check them out. All tiers get access to the Discord. Actually, everybody gets access to the Discord. Patrons just get added little bonuses. And then we have Paul. Do you have anything that you wanted to say / thank the listeners for?
Of course. First and foremost, thank you everybody for listening. Even if this is the first and last episode you ever have or ever will listen to, it means a lot to me and James that you took the time to do so. If you like what you heard, please feel free to, share our name around with your friends. If next time you're sitting down, now that we're all playing in paper again, let them know, hey, I listen to these cool guys, Commander at Arms, and maybe get them to follow us and start tuning in as well. If you like to indulge in video content or prefer that, please feel free to head over to our YouTube page, where James has already posted a couple of videos, especially if you're listening to this by Thursday, then I'm pretty sure that the colon video will be up. So if that is your preferred medium of content consumption, please give that a view, and if you like what you see, give us a sub over there as well. And I also want to thank everybody that has followed us recently. I hope that we can do our content justice, and I hope that you like what you listen to.
And with that, I'm James.
And I'm Paul.
And you've been listening to the newest episode of the Commander at Arms podcast. Peace.
See ya.